Hi, I'm Chef Ian Bromstead, and welcome to Regal Fare, where I'll show you how to create simple and elegant meals just like we do at some of the finest restaurants in this country. So today we're going to prepare a celery root salad with pomegranate and pecorino, then we'll make a roasted halibut with kale and cannellini beans, and then we'll have a blueberry panna cotta with Meyer lemon. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on our panna cotta right away. So I'm just going to take about 1/3 of a cup of milk, and I'm just going to heat it gently. I'm just going to heat the milk on this burner here. And I have 1½ sheets of gelatin that I've gone ahead and bloomed in a little bit of cold water that starts the softening process of the gelatin, just to soak it in cold water, just until it's soft. And you can also use the dried powdered gelatin that you get in the little envelopes, that's fine too. So as soon as our milk is hot here, we can go ahead and add our gelatin. So I have about 2 teaspoons of sugar. I'm just going to dissolve that in the milk. We can start whisking to dissolve. Milk is almost hot enough to add the gelatin. We want the milk to be just warm enough to dissolve the gelatin, about 120 degrees. So we can go ahead and we can add our gelatin. So this will go right in. And immediately we can see the gelatin starting to dissolve. So now that we have all the gelatin in there, we're just going to whisk and make sure that it's all dissolved. And it is. So we can just give this just a moment to cool. Now while we're letting our milk cool slightly, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start our candied lemon. So to make our candied lemon, I'm going to just take some nice thin slices of this Meyer lemon. I like the little ones off the ends. Fits neatly on the end of the panna cotta. Just a couple more slices. So now that we have our sliced Meyer lemons, so we're just going to go ahead and we're going to dissolve 4 tablespoons of sugar in about ½ cup of water, making a little simple syrup. And we're just going to poach these Meyer lemon slices in it. So as our simple syrup is heating up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add our bloom gelatin to the rest of our buttermilk. We can go ahead and we can add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and whisk that in. So now that our panna cotta base is ready, so we're just going to take our panna cotta base and we're just going to fill these little cups. Just nice, about 3/4 of the way full, just so we have a nice little panna cotta. Can do this one too. Just fill this guy up also about 3/4. So now that we have our simple syrup ready, we can go ahead and we can put our Meyer lemon slices in it. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to let these Meyer lemon slices poach in the simple syrup for about 20 to 25 minutes. I'm going to pop these panna cottas in the refrigerator, let them set up. We're going to get cleaned up and we'll come right back and work on our halibut. So welcome back. We have all of our items ready and we're going to get started on our halibut dish. So first we're going to get started and we're going to make a little sofrito here. So I have about 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. I'm going to add about 1/4 cup of chopped carrot. I'm going to add again about 1/4 cup of chopped celery and about ½ cup of red onion that's been chopped. So I'm just going to let these cook. So while our sofrito is cooking, this is a very traditional Italian sauce and soup base known as sofrito or semi-fried, where we semi-fry the vegetables in olive oil. So in this pan over here, I'm going to get started on a little bit of bean puree that we use to as the base of our halibut dish. So we're just going to get this cooking away here. So for our bean puree, we can take a little more extra virgin olive oil, and we can start to sweat some sliced white onion. We can add just a little bit of salt to the white onion. That'll help sweat the onion. It'll help release some of its liquid and cook it a little faster. So we can go ahead and get the onion stirring here. So our sofrito is coming along nicely. It's starting to get hot. We're going to want to let this cook for just a few moments, just until the vegetables start to get tender. We can hear the sofrito starting to get a little quieter. That just means that some of the liquid is starting to evaporate. Just means that the vegetables are almost ready here. Our onions are almost ready here. Just another few moments, and we'll be ready to add our beans. So our beans are nice and translucent here, or our onions. We can go ahead and add our beans. I'm just going to take some of these beans with the liquid. Just a little more beans. So we have a nice, beautiful, creamy puree here, or at least the base of it. Just let this keep cooking. So now we can just heat the beans through. Our sofrito is almost ready here. You can see our vegetables are starting to sink down into the oil. That means that they're starting to get tender. Just another few moments and we can add our tomatoes. So now that our sofrito is just about tender, we can go ahead and we can add some chopped tomatoes. These are San Marzano tomatoes. So all I did was take some of these San Marzano tomatoes, peel them, squeeze the juice out, and chop them coarsely. So we're just going to want to let these tomatoes stew in here for just a few moments. We just want to cook out some of the raw flavor of the tomato before we add the rest of our kale. So while we're letting this cook, while we're letting all of our tomatoes sweat in our sofrito here, we can go ahead and we can stir our beans. We add just a little more liquid, a little more of the bean liquid. So all these beans are is I just soak them overnight, and then I just poach them in just a little bit of water, just until they're tender, with just a little clove of garlic and a little bunch of sage. So these are almost ready. We just want to heat these through, just so they'll puree nice and easily. And our sofrito is working along nicely. Our tomatoes are really starting to sweat. You can see that the oil is starting to take on a little bit of the red color from the tomatoes. Just let this cook for just another few minutes and we can start to add our kale. So now that our beans are hot, we can go ahead and we can transfer them to the blender. So I'm just going to bring the blender down here. So now we have our hot beans, our stewed onions, and our garlic going right into the blender. So I'm just going to blend this just until it's thick and creamy. If we need to add a little more liquid, we can. When we puree the beans, they tend to get a little thicker as they puree. Just a little more liquid. And check on our sofrito. Looking very nice in here. You can see the tomatoes are starting to lose a little bit of their liquid. You're starting to be able to see the oil again. All the liquid that's on the bottom of the pan is starting to evaporate. You can check on our bean puree. Turn this up a little bit. So our bean puree is now done. I'm just going to transfer this into a small pot. Here we have the finished puree. Our sofrito is just about there. We can go ahead and we can start on our kale. So we're just going to add slowly our kale, a little bit at a time, just to get it all incorporated down into the sofrito. It's going to make a really, really delicious braise of kale. What I really like about this is the sweetness of all the sweat vegetables works really well with the tartness of the tomatoes. So it's going to be a really delicious sweet and sour flavor with the kale. So now we see the kale is all cooked down. We can add the rest. So now that we have our kale braising, get this all mixed in. Now that this is all cooking down nicely, I'm just going to add just a little bit of fresh ground pepper. So now we can go ahead and start working on our halibut. So I've just got these beautiful pieces of halibut here. This is Pacific halibut. It comes from the northern Pacific off the coast of Oregon. I'm just going to season both sides with a little salt and a little pepper. The other. And check on our sofrito here. Really coming along nicely here. We're just going to let this cook just until the kale is tender. So now that we have our halibut seasoned, we're just going to go ahead and increase the heat on this pan and just saute them in a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. So we'll just check on our kale here. This is coming along very nicely. Kale is braising. It's all starting to cook down. Not sticking at all. Beautiful braise of kale. So now that we have our oil hot, we can go ahead and just drop these pieces of halibut right in the pan. So we're sauteing our halibut. Our kale is braising. Our chickpea puree is done. I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of cannellini beans, just to have a little bit of whole beans to go with the dish, into the kale. Now we have our kale mixed with our cannellini beans and our sofrito. So I'm just going to add just a touch of water here, just to make sure that the sofrito doesn't burn. I'm going to lower the heat on the halibut. And I'm going to actually whisk a little bit of lemon juice and a little bit of olive oil into our bean puree. The lemon juice really works nicely with the creaminess of the bean puree. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. Works kind of like a salad dressing. A little lemon juice and a little olive oil. Make sure we squeeze out the seeds. I'm going to check on our halibut. Just a little longer so we get a little bit of color on the halibut. Our sofrito braised kale is coming down nicely. Add just a little bit more water here just to make sure that we don't stick. Continue seasoning our bean puree. I'm just going to emulsify just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil into the puree, just to give it that extra creaminess. So now that we have our bean puree completed and our sofrito braised kale just about ready, we can get ready to plate. So now our halibut should be just about ready to flip. We'll take a look, see if we're getting some nice color yet. Just maybe a few more moments. We're starting to get a little color, but I think a little more would be nice. So we can continue to cook that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take some of this beautiful, delicious cannellini bean puree. I'm just going to put a generous dollop right in the bottom of this bowl here. Just like that. Now I'm going to take a nice big spoonful of this beautiful kale. I'm just going to place it right on top. We can take a look at our halibut. I think they should be just about ready to turn. Right, so we're getting some nice golden brown color on these. Flip them over. And I'm actually just going to shut this pan right off, and the residual heat of the pan will finish cooking these. I'm going to continue plating our dish. A little more kale. So now we can go ahead and take our pieces of halibut and just place them right on top. They're just about there. I can see the albumin starts seeping out of the side of the halibut. I can tell that means that it's cooked. Place this other one right on top. I'm just going to drizzle a little bit more extra virgin olive oil right on the fish. And just a little bit more fresh lemon juice. So here we have our roasted halibut with sofrito braised Tuscan kale and cannellini beans. We're going to get this cleaned up and we'll be right back to make our salad. Welcome back. So we have all the ingredients ready for our salad and we're going to get right into it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start shaving just a little bit of this raw fennel. So I'm just going to shave a little bit of this on this mandolin. And this mandolin is actually how I prepared all of our celery root and our shaved shallots. So now that we have a little bit of fennel shaved, I'm going to go ahead and start our dressing. So I'm going to take just a little bit of Dijon mustard, about a teaspoon, and start it right in this bowl here. I'm going to put a half a lemon's worth of juice in here. Make sure we don't have any seeds. I'm going to take some of these fresh green peppercorns. That's actually what these are here. This is just a fresh version of the black peppercorns. And these are actually fresh green peppercorns, and what these are actually the fresh green version of what we all know as black peppercorns. Very excited to have this ingredient with us in the kitchen today. So I'm just going to stir these ingredients to combine. And now that we have the base for our vinaigrette ready, I'm just going to add just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. I'm just going to emulsify the olive oil into the dressing so that it becomes one nice homogeneous mass. Slowly incorporate the olive oil, just drizzling a little bit at a time so that they stay emulsified. Just a little bit more. And I can see that our dressing is getting just a little thick. I'm just going to add just a little more lemon juice. So we can continue with the emulsifying of the olive oil. Just little by little, making sure that the dressing doesn't separate. All the lemon juice and the mustard goes to the bottom, and the olive oil comes to the top. So now that we have our dressing ready, I'm going to start adding some of our ingredients. So I have here some shaved raw celery root. All this is I just took the celery root and peeled it. I cut it into some small pieces and ran it across the mandolin. So we have our celery root here. I'm going to add a little bit of torn mint. I'm going to add a little bit of picked parsley leaves. A little bit of basil leaves. A little bit of shaved shallot. Just a little more. And then I'm going to add our shaved fennel. So now that we have all of our salad ingredients in here, I'm just going to add a little bit of salt. And just a little bit of grated garlic, just right into the dressing. About a half a clove for this recipe is really more than enough. Just get that right down into the dressing. So now that we have all of our ingredients together in this bowl, we can just start tossing the coat. Just want to make sure that we get all the vegetables nicely dressed with our delicious green peppercorn vinaigrette. Nice and coated. We want to make sure all the pieces of all the vegetables get coated in the dressing. So now that we have the base of our salad dressed, I'm going to go ahead and start plating. So I'm going to take a generous amount of these celery roots and just arrange them around. And see those little bits of the fresh green peppercorn in there? That'll give a real nice spicy fresh kick to it. Continue to layer our celery root onto the plate. So now I'm just going to go ahead and wash my hands. And I'm just going to take a few pieces of arugula. I'm just going to arrange these over the top. Gives it a nice, goes along really nice. The peppery flavor of the arugula goes along really nicely with the pepperiness of the salad dressing. It's one of my favorite salads. I really love the zing of the fresh green peppercorn. I really love how it works with the celery root. One more piece, 2 more pieces of arugula here. So now that we have all the arugula on, I'm going to go ahead and take some of this pecorino romano, and I'm just going to grate it on top. It's going to add a real nice salty richness to this salad. It's going to go really well with the arugula, really well with the green peppercorn. Have some of that creaminess help cut through some of the spiciness. So I have a nice amount of cheese here. So now I'm just going to take a little bit of these pomegranate seeds. I'm just going to sprinkle these all over. Gives a nice crunch to the salad, nice little sweet acidity. The beautiful red color works very well against the white of the celery root and the green of the herbs and the arugula. So here we have our celery root salad with pomegranate and pecorino. I'm just going to sprinkle just a little bit of toasted breadcrumbs on top. All I did for these breadcrumbs was just sauteed a little bit of country bread in some extra virgin olive oil and seasoned it with some salt and pepper. It's going to give it a real nice texture to work very well with the pomegranate. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to clean this up. We're going to come right back and we're going to present our dishes. Okay, we're ready to go ahead and start plating our panna cotta. So I'm just going to take some of these blueberries. Now all I did with these blueberries was I just cooked them with just a little bit of sugar. I took about a cup of blueberries and cooked them with about a tablespoon of sugar, just until they look like this. Very simple process. So I'm just gonna take our blueberries and just arrange them in the bowl. Nice little ring. Create a nice little bed for our panna cotta to sit on. So we have our blueberries down. So now we're just going to take our panna cotta, and hopefully it should just pop right out here. So it should just pop right out here. We just set our panna cotta right on top. And now we're just going to take one of our candied Meyer lemon slices and just lay it right over the top of the panna cotta. So now here we have our panna cotta with blueberries and Meyer lemon. We have our celery root salad with pecorino and pomegranate, and we have our roasted cod with sofrito braised kale and cannellini beans. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Regal Fare. I'm Chef Ian Bromstead, and we'll see you here next time.